Half an acre does not look like a farm. It looks like a backyard. But in the right hands, that small patch of ground can produce eggs, meat, milk, honey, wax, fertilizer, and enough activity to make a vegetable garden far more productive. The mistake is trying to keep every animal at once. Traditional small farms work differently. Space is treated like money. Every pen, path, shelter, and patch of grass has to earn its place. And although Amish farms vary enormously from one community to another, the same practical question appears again and again. Which animal returns the most food and usefulness for the space, feed, and labor it consumes? Today we are going to compare 7 of the best choices for a half-acre homestead. Not 7 animals you should squeeze together. 7 options, ranked from the easiest to fit into a small system to the animals that can take over the entire property. And the animal at number 1 produces something no chicken, rabbit, or goat can make. Before the list begins, picture half an acre as roughly 21,780 square feet. Now remove the house, driveway, septic area, shade, paths, and garden. The usable animal area may be only a quarter of that. That is why the real Amish lesson is not own more animals. It is make each animal do more than one job. Number 7. Quail. Quail are the smallest livestock on this list, and that is their great advantage. Penn State's small flock guidance lists about 1 square foot indoors and 4 square feet in an outside run for each quail. A carefully managed covey can fit where even a modest chicken coop would feel crowded. Their eggs are small, but the birds mature quickly. They are quiet compared with chickens, and they can turn a protected corner of a shed into a steady source of food. But quail also expose the difference between compact and free. Small birds still require balanced feed. They cannot live on garden scraps. Their water must remain clean. Their enclosure must be protected from rats, snakes, raccoons, and even frightened upward flight. A low roof may injure them. A properly designed, taller enclosure or a soft, low ceiling can reduce that risk. Quail make sense when land is the limiting factor and purchased feed is acceptable. They do not make sense if the goal is to have animals forage for most of their diet. Think of them as the apartment dwellers of the homestead, extraordinarily space efficient, but dependent on supplies coming through the door. Number 6. Rabbits. A rabbitry can produce meat in a footprint smaller than many garden sheds. Mature breeding animals can be housed individually, while growing rabbits can be managed in appropriate group pens. Their manure is dry, easy to collect, and valuable in a compost system. That last point matters. On a small property, waste cannot be allowed to become a problem. It has to become a resource. Rabbit bedding and manure can be layered with leaves, straw, and garden residues. After proper composting and handling, that material returns fertility to beds that produce vegetables for the household. The animals and garden become 2 parts of the same loop. But the romantic version of rabbits leaves out their greatest weakness: heat. Rabbits tolerate cold far better than hot, stagnant air. A shaded, well-ventilated rabbitry is essential. Clean water is not optional, and cages or pens must remain sanitary. Good airflow protects the animals, but a direct winter draft can create another problem. There is also a feed myth worth correcting. Rabbits can eat forage, hay, and selected garden plants, but a dependable production system requires a properly balanced ration and careful observation. A pile of lawn clippings is not a nutrition plan. Rabbits are an excellent choice for a family that values quiet, compact meat production and does not mind daily, close management. Number 5. Laying hens. If one animal defines the small American farm, it is the chicken. Penn State recommends roughly 1.5 square feet inside and 8 square feet of outside run for a laying hen as a minimum guide. 10 hens therefore need far less than half an acre, leaving room for a garden, compost area, and orchard. And hens perform several jobs. They produce eggs. They scratch through organic material. They eat some insects and kitchen trimmings. Their manure adds nitrogen to compost. In a movable pen, they can prepare a garden bed after harvest by disturbing the surface and hunting for pests. But there is an important word in that sentence: after. Loose chickens in a growing garden do not distinguish between a pest and a seedling. They can erase a row of lettuce in minutes. The successful system controls time and access. Birds enter finished beds, orchard lanes, or rotating runs. They do not receive permanent permission to go everywhere. A dry coop matters more than an expensive coop. Good ventilation removes moisture and ammonia without blowing a direct draft across roosting birds. Clean nest material helps keep eggs clean. Predator-proof latches matter because raccoons can manipulate simple hooks. And no, a rooster is not required for eggs. A rooster is needed only for fertile eggs, and on half an acre his noise may be the first thing the neighbors notice. Hens remain one of the best starting animals because the reward arrives almost every day. A basket of eggs makes the connection between morning chores and supper immediate. Number 4. Ducks. Ducks can occupy much of the same footprint as chickens, but they change the management equation. Penn State's Small Poultry Guide suggests about 3 square feet indoors and 15 square feet of outside run per duck. They need more room, and they are astonishingly good at turning clean water into mud. That sounds like a reason to avoid them. In the right system, it is a reason to place them carefully. Ducks excel in wet corners where chickens struggle. They hunt slugs, snails, and insects. Many breeds lay generously. Their larger eggs are prized for baking, and they cope with cool, damp weather when given dry shelter and protection from wind. They do not need a decorative pond. They do need water deep enough to immerse and clean their bills and nostrils. The water station belongs outside the sleeping house, on gravel, wood chips, or another surface that can handle repeated wetting. On a small homestead, water is a design problem. A badly placed duck tub creates odor and flies. A well-placed station can drain toward a mulch basin or be emptied onto hungry trees, provided local health and runoff rules are followed. Ducks reward the owner who designs for mess instead of pretending mess will not happen. That principle feels old, but it is really engineering. Put each behavior where it becomes useful. Number 3. Honeybees. A beehive uses almost none of the ground inside the fence because the bees gather food across a much larger landscape. They produce honey, wax, and propolis. More importantly, they move pollen. A productive garden, berry patch, and orchard may benefit from their presence, although native bees and other wild pollinators remain critically important too. This is why bees rank so high. They expand the productive reach of a half-acre property without consuming its pasture. But bees are not a box that prints honey. The colony is livestock. It requires inspection, seasonal management, disease awareness, and a plan for varroa mites. The hive needs morning sun, good drainage, access to forage, and a flight path that does not send thousands of bees directly across a doorway or neighboring patio. Local law matters. Pennsylvania, for example, requires apiaries to be registered, and other locations have their own rules. A water source should be provided before the bees decide that a neighbor's swimming pool is perfect. The beginner is often advised to start with more than one colony. 2 colonies allow comparison. If one weakens, the difference is easier to see, and some management problems can be corrected with resources from the stronger hive. Bees also teach patience. The first year may produce little or no harvestable surplus. The colony's stored honey is winter food before it is human food. Yet no other animal on this list transforms flowers across the neighborhood into a shelf-stable product while helping a garden set fruit. Number 2. Dairy goats. Now the calculation changes. Goats are not tiny cows. They are intelligent herd animals with strong social needs, excellent climbing ability, and an almost supernatural talent for finding the weak point in a fence. You should not keep one goat alone. 2 small dairy goats may fit physically on half an acre, but that does not mean the land can feed them all year. This is the distinction that sensational homesteading advice often hides. Housing space is not the same as feed-producing space. Goats need dry, well-ventilated shelter, secure fencing, clean water, minerals, and dependable forage. Penn State notes that an open shed can provide roughly 10 to 12 square feet of shelter per doe, but the grazing and browsing requirement is a separate issue. On a small parcel, hay and sometimes concentrate will arrive from outside the property. In return, a dairy doe can provide milk that becomes yogurt, soft cheese, soap, and other household products. Her manure enters the compost pile. Her browsing can help manage woody growth if access is carefully rotated. But milk creates a schedule. A doe in milk cannot be ignored because the family wants a weekend away. Breeding, kidding, hoof care, parasites, fencing, and veterinary access all become part of the plan. Goats belong near the top because their return is remarkable. They also carry the highest daily commitment so far. For a half-acre household, the sensible goat system is small: 2 compatible animals, excellent fencing, purchased winter forage, and no fantasy that a lawn can support them indefinitely. Number 1. Feeder pigs. This may seem impossible. Pigs are large, powerful, and destructive. That is exactly why a small homestead can use them so effectively for a limited season. Instead of maintaining breeding animals all year, a family can purchase 2 young feeder pigs, raise them together, and process them before winter. The land supports a seasonal enterprise rather than a permanent herd. Penn State's guidance for small groups notes that growing pigs may need around 8 square feet each in indoor housing, with much more outdoor space desirable for manure distribution and pasture management. A simple 3-sided shelter can work on pasture, but the ground outside will not remain a picture-perfect lawn. Pigs root. Given too much time in one place, they create bare soil, holes, and mud. Given controlled access, that behavior can clear a future garden, disturb compacted ground, consume fallen orchard fruit, and embedding into rich compost material. The line between useful disturbance and destruction is rotation. Strong fencing is essential. So is shade. Pigs do not sweat effectively, and summer heat demands water, ventilation, and often a wallow or another cooling method. Their appetite is substantial. Pasture and surplus produce can supplement a balanced ration, but pigs are not a disposal system for unsafe food, and local rules govern what may be fed. Why place pigs at number 1? Because 2 seasonal pigs can convert feed, garden surplus, and labor into a large quantity of freezer food while eliminating the cost and complexity of overwintering breeding stock. They also force the owner to think in cycles. Spring begins with young animals and a clean paddock. Summer brings rotation, shade, water, and rapid growth. Autumn ends with a full freezer, an empty pen, and a piece of ground ready for cover crop, compost, or next year's garden. That seasonal reset is the hidden strength. So what is the best half-acre combination? If daily food with moderate labor is the goal, begin with 6 to 10 laying hens and a compost system. If silence and compact meat production matter most, consider rabbits or quail. If the property is wet and slug-prone, ducks may earn their mess. If a garden and orchard are the center of the homestead, bees add value without consuming pasture. If milk justifies a demanding schedule, 2 goats may be worth surrendering much of the remaining space and buying forage. If the goal is a seasonal freezer harvest, 2 feeder pigs can become the entire animal plan for that part of the year. The strongest design rarely includes all 7. It might include hens, rabbits, and bees, or ducks and a large garden, or 2 goats with no other livestock, or 2 pigs rotated through temporary paddocks before the land rests. The Amish principle worth borrowing is not a particular species. Different affiliations, districts, farms, and families make different choices. The principle is disciplined fit. Does the animal fit the land? Does it fit the family's time? Can its feed be supplied honestly? Can its manure be used safely? Can it be protected from weather and predators? And does it produce something the household truly needs? Half an acre becomes productive when every square foot has a purpose and every animal belongs to a system. Not when the backyard holds the longest possible list. The old wisdom is simple. Count the work before you count the animals. Then choose the one whose daily return makes that work worthwhile.